am a licensed ordained minister, so I'm his assistant or whatever he tells me to do. How about that? Along with several other folks over at Galilee. But what I do full-time is real estate. Real estate is a hot topic right now, and there's two things that I do. I tell people all the time, this is my mission to tell y'all. I am on a mission to change the world. Y'all want to know how? I'm going to change the world by encouraging stronger godly marriages who in turn understand the importance of investing in real estate. Because marriage plus real estate equal legacy. So you think about your legacy and the legacy you want to leave for your family, you think about strength in a marriage because they're watching you. Your kids, grandkids, your neighbors, everybody's watching you. So marriage, as we know, is God's first institution. So we know that is how we show love upon the earth. Don't y'all agree? So we want to be able to show that love and not frustration and confusion and brokenness. And in our community, in the black community, it is very challenging, right? It can be very, very challenging. So my husband and I have written books. We speak at retreats and conferences regarding marriage and how to have a godly marriage. There's a difference between a godly marriage and a good marriage. Just so y'all know, okay? But I'm not here to talk about marriage tonight. I'm here to talk about real estate, which has been a hot topic here lately. I know all y'all watch the news, but I want to give you the facts, right? Give you the facts of what's happening. So, are we in a very competitive market? Yes, we are. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask you all, how many of you all own your own home? Pay mortgage, you own your own. Okay, so most of us in here are homeowners, right? So, can I just ask random questions to you? Is that all right? I'm going to get y'all to talk back to me if you can, all right? Does that sound good? Okay, so the beautiful lady in the purple here, you said you own your home, right? Okay, tell me, why did you buy a home?
Because I didn't want to pay apartment rent.
You didn't want to pay apartment rent. Why you didn't want to pay apartment rent? What's wrong with that?
I would never own it.
You what?
I would never own it.
All right, come on somebody. So you either pay your own mortgage or you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You can choose. And some people just rather pay somebody else's mortgage or pay their salary so they can live every month if it's a paid off property, right? And that's your choice to do it. Some people don't realize that home ownership is attainable.
Amen.
Yes, it is attainable, right? So how many of y'all owned a home in your 20s? Let's think way back. How many of you raise your hand? Okay, brother in the back owned a home when he was in his 20s. I bought my first house in my 20s as well. How many of y'all owned a home in your 30s? Okay, in your 30s. So, brother in the back, you said you owned your home in your 20s. So what made you think you could just go out and buy you a house?
So when I was 25, I purchased my first home, to which I'm currently living in. The reason for making that purchase at the time, Obama was the president at the time, and the housing market was, you could really buy real estate at really good prices.
So that was 2008, 2009.
It was actually 2012.
Okay, yep. Oh, it lasted a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I purchased in that time period, and right now today, if I sold my house, I closed on my house at $116,000. I owe $94,000. Right now today, if I sold it, I could make. Zillow has offered to pay me $305,000 for my home.
Absolutely.
And so if you do the math, you see how much profit I can make from the sale of my home now.
And I appreciate your transparency.
Yeah.
You know what? I really appreciate it because people don't understand, what all the equity means, how does that work, how are these sellers making a lot of money today, what's happening in the market today, right? So let me ask y'all this question. When you think about real estate today in this market, what do you think about? Money. Somebody's making some money, right? Who's making it? The sellers are making it. You said what you think about it is what?
Is it attainable?
Is it attainable? Who's thinking about is it attainable? The buyers. People who are buying a house. So why haven't all y'all sold y'all houses to make a good profit?
Where you gonna go?
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Where you going?
Where you gonna go? If people ask me where you gonna go, nowhere to go, right? So, but you just gotta be creative, you gotta have timing, right? And of course, you gotta have a good agent like myself, right? To help you out in those situations. So let's talk about it, let's talk about it. So what we're looking at right now is a seller's market. What is a seller's market? Come on, help me out.
Everybody's selling and you can get a good profit off of what you're selling.
Yep, y'all remember in economics class, supply and demand. Y'all remember that, right? Yep, when there's a lot of supply and low demand, right, that gives you one aspect from a buyer's market, right? When the supply is low and the demand is high, that gives you a seller's market. So everybody, many people, I'm gonna stop using broad terms. So many people ask me, when is the market going to what? Crash.
Amen.
Everybody's sitting on their porch waiting. I'm gonna see if this thing gonna crash.
Hold your money.
Hold your money, it's gonna crash. Is it gonna crash from my perspective? No. Is it going to correct? Yes. We're not gonna have a situation. Now listen now, bishops and preachers and first ladies and all y'all in here. I'm not an expert, so I can't predict the future. That's not what I do. Right? But I will tell you, based on what I've been reading and information I've been reading, we're not in the same situation we were in 2008. In 2008, they were giving out a lot of, I call dummy loans. I mean, a lot of loans that they knew some people wouldn't be able to survive on or be able to handle if something goes awry, right? So it was a mortgage lending situation. That's not the market we're in right now. Okay? That's not. Is it going to correct? Yes. When is it going to correct? Who knows? Is it going to correct this year? I say no. People thought COVID was going to correct the market. It made it catapult even more, right? So $350,000 houses are now $450,000. $250,000 houses are now $350,000. You just heard him say that he looked on Zillow, which don't trust everything you see on Ask Expert, okay? But he looked at Zillow and he said his house is worth about $300,000. And you pay only $100 something for it? So is real estate a good investment? No matter what the market's doing, real estate is a good investment. It is a safer investment than the stock market, than anything like that, right? So let's talk about, well, before I just start sharing, because I have a lot I can share with y'all, and it's real interesting stuff. I want to know, is there something particular you want to know about this market?
Well, look at this, we think the government will eventually intervene where these developers from like New York, California is coming in, buying up like just about entire neighborhoods, and then in turn is renting their homes out. We think the government will eventually intervene and stop that, because it's really putting the, I guess, the
strain on communities.
Right.
Well, in other big cities, y'all know it's called gentrification, right? You can just drive down this street, see a little house, then you see one of the tall and skinny houses, right? It just happens everywhere. I don't know how much control the government is going to give, right, to these investors. Because now it's not just the investors. It's Mr. Jones that lives in San Diego who decides, I'm going to go retire in Nashville. He sells his house that looks like probably one of these houses across the street, no bigger than that, for $1.5 million. What can you do for $1.5 million in Nashville? Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. So not only now do you have investors and developers, you have just your average people who are moving here in droves. I mean, I have had several California clients come in, and what are they paying with? Cash. So the locals are wondering, how are they outbidding me on these offers? It's because they have cash in hand, right? Cash in hand. So the government, there's a couple things I want to say about the government. The government, hopefully, there's talk and conversations about finding ways to incentivize the buyers. Because right now, the sellers have all the power. So all of you all who own your home, you have the power. You in the game because you have a home. How many of y'all get calls every day about selling your house? Yeah, all the time. Because not only do they call, iBuyers are people who are, let me just explain a few folks so you know who's calling. An iBuyer is a non-licensed agent in most cases. It's the nephew who wants to get in real estate but don't want to get the license. They don't necessarily have to. He's a third-party person. So he's talking to you to sell your house, and he has a list of investors that would buy it. That's an iBuyer, okay? And you get letters to say, we want to buy your house, you know, when you just sell your house. And that's what an iBuyer is. A real estate agent, they're always going to let you know, hey, I'm with Keller Williams Realty, I'm with so-and-so Realty. They're typically licensed agents. They're still going to call you, especially in this market, because we need sellers. Our buyers need places to go. And if you want to sell, we want to know, right? So we're calling you, but we're letting you know who we're with, what we provide, and we're just representing the buyer in most cases, right? In all those cases, we represent the buyer or the investor, depends on who it is, but it's typically just one particular person. And so they're calling you, asking you about your home. So what we're saying is that hopefully some incentives will be given out from the government in time to the buyers so that they can have more buying power. Does that make sense? One thing that they did just a few months ago is that they helped the student loan. Did y'all hear about that? If you have student loans, now your debt to income ratio is not counted so much against you when you're trying to apply for a loan. So right before it was like 1%. So just say you got a $10,000 student loan and it's in, right, all student loans are in deferment right now. So they're in deferment, then they want to take a calculation of like $1,000 as your payment. Well, when your student loan come out of payment, you're not necessarily paying $1,000, you might be paying $200, right, toward it. But that's how much they would use toward your debt to income, and that will prevent you from buying more of a house. Now they take 0.5%, so it's less. So maybe if you tried to get qualified before for a house and you was only qualified for $250, now today if you haven't checked in the last couple of months, you probably gonna be qualified for $300 plus. That's how. That's a benefit. That's a perk for the buyer, so they can qualify for more. Okay. So that's what I see coming down more so than them stopping. I saw a lot of zoning signs out here, so they get ready to have a hearing if they haven't already. Did y'all see all those signs? Are y'all a part of what's happening in this neighborhood?
I think tomorrow, the representative's supposed to give us an update on what's going on around.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff, those are the meetings you want to come to. Because typically, the councilmen and those people more on the local level can help with that, you know, and have certain restrictions on what they can build, but you can't always stop an investor from investing. But they can prevent them from building these tall and skinnies where the neighborhood is not fit for them, you know, or these huge businesses that are on these corners that don't fit for the neighborhood, right? So what other questions do y'all have? I want to make sure I talk about those. I saw your hand in the back, go ahead.
So, could churches become a part of that investor type ordeal where they, you know, like say 10 of us want to get together in the church and purchase the property and it be in the name of the church and it be income for the church? Is that something that the church could do?
Yeah, especially if the church has an LLC, that would help protect it, one, but yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Buy your block up.
Yeah, and I think that, could you kind of explain more about that LLC and how to go about doing that as far as what the church could do as far as like say, because it is a housing crisis in Nashville,
Yes.
especially for people of color. Because I work in the school system and you will be surprised of how many families just don't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
And
Because even,
go
to
ahead.
your point, go ahead.
Because they just can't literally afford Nashville. They don't have the income, they can't get the jobs, they can't compete with those who are getting the jobs or even the jobs that are being created. And it's like they don't even have the skills to be competitive in the job market. So it's, you know, it's a real crisis that I think, you know, if we come together in the body of Christ, we could possibly help the people in which we serve.
Yeah, anytime you bring the body of Christ together, that's going to help all situations. Social justice, housing, you know, all of those situations. But you got to be able to maintain what you commit to. Unfortunately, put the church to the side. Unfortunately, we live in a world that's greedy and selfish. Would y'all agree? And that's ruining, it ruins a lot of partnerships, it ruins a lot of everything. And people see all the money you can make, because even rent has gone up, right? Because the people that, some people that are selling, you know what they're doing? They're cashing out, making it $200,000 or $300,000, putting it in their pocket, and they're going to rent for a year. So now they're paying rent, right? And they can afford maybe a little bit more than Sister Jones can afford. Do you see what I'm saying? So it really just starts this whole cycle up again, you know, and so becomes very challenging in this market. So to me, partnerships are smart, but you got to be committed to the mission. You got to be committed to the mission. So I think that's very important. But to get to LLC, you know, I definitely advise to get an attorney. Don't try to do it online. Try to save money. Get you an attorney and do it right, and have an LLC for the church or a nonprofit. Make sure your church has a 501c3. You can do it under that umbrella as well. But I'm not an attorney, so, but that's just my 2 cents toward it. You know, but get the structure first versus a handshake. Because a handshake usually doesn't shake out in most cases. So I want to let you all know, when you're in the home buying process, there's a couple things you do want to prepare for, right? So you want to make sure you know your credit score. Everybody know where you can find your credit score. If you don't know what your credit score is, you should know. It no matter what age you are or where you are. You need to know where you stand, because in the world we live in, right, we have to operate in some of the things the world does, and credit is one, right? You can have personal credit, and you can have business credit. Some people buy a lot of stuff with their business credit. They don't even touch their personal credit, right? They use their business credit. So where can I go to look at my credit? Online, Equifax. Okay, so the big 3 is Equifax. What else? TransUnion. And what's the other?
Experian.
Experian, right? The big 3. So those are the big 3 that every lender, every person who's looking at your credit, they look at. Where can you go?
There's a website called ID Club that'll give you all 3 credit bureaus.
Yep, there's all kind of sites, but I tell you a credible one who has actually, you can get it once a year, but since COVID, they say you can go, I've heard as often as every month or every week. It's called annualcreditreport.com. That is a very popular one. You can go in there tonight, annualcreditreport.com, and just pull it up, right? Pull your credit. And now, because of COVID, they're letting you pull it more often than you want to. It's not going to ding your credit. It's not going to hurt anything. And that way you have an idea of where you stand. So credit scores, what's the range of credit scores? Range, so the lowest about what, 300, let's say 300, okay, about 300. What's the highest? 850, right, 800, 850. So you know that there's a broad spectrum. So when you have good credit, what's good credit?
700 and 800.
Yeah, so for loans, you can qualify for loans as low as 640. Especially if you're a VA. Any veterans in here? Excellent. 640 you can qualify. So there is a, but your interest rate is based on your credit score. Just so you know. So 640, you can qualify, but you may not have the best interest rate. The next break is 720. Okay, once you have a 720, you get another interest rate break. And then it goes up from there where you can get lower interest rates the better your credit is. Okay? Your credit can be so good, you should be able to walk in a car lot or anywhere like that just with your driver's license. You shouldn't have to bring anything else when your credit is good. Right? And so, just keep that in mind. So you want to be able to at least try to strive for 640 to 700. You get a 700, then you're more in what we call the golden age. That's what you want to be. Right? The lender helps drive that, not real estate agents, okay? So we have resources to connect you with great lenders that will walk you down the path if you're trying to clean up your credit. Because that's the first thing we do. You say you want to buy a house, that's the first thing we do is get you pre-approved. Because it doesn't make sense to go to the mall and shop when you have no money, right? It doesn't make any sense to go to the Louis Vuitton store when you can only afford Michael Kors. And ain't nothing wrong with Michael Kors. He's one of my favorite designers, right? But I know I don't need to be in Louis Vuitton if I can only afford Michael Kors. So you gotta be able to understand what you're shopping for. Okay, but a lot of times we do it backwards. I just wanna go see the house. Let me go see what it looked like. Well, you don't wanna go see a house, fall in love with it, and there's no way you can get it. Right? So that's most important. So the first step is what? Check your personal credit score so you know where you are. Second step, talk to a lender. Ask the lender will walk you through, they'll fill out a basic application, they'll see where you are, and they will give you suggestions on what to do. The agent doesn't have to know your personal business. And I hate that sometimes. Sometimes we don't even do business with each other because you're just like, well, she'll know all my business. But honey, we're going to help you find a house. That's what we focus on. We stay in our lane, right? We stay in our lane. So once you get pre-approved, you'll get a letter saying you're pre-approved for, let's say, $300,000. Then we take that letter and we start shopping. We start showing houses. We'll tour homes, right? You can get a new build home, which right now, new builds are taking about 8 months to build, and good luck finding them. I mean, they're really challenging to find. You got to get them at the right time. They're also, because of the inventory shortage. So a lot of people ran to new build communities. Why? Because of the bidding wars. When I say bidding wars, what does that mean? Anybody know? If you're not in real estate, you probably may not know, you may not care, may not think about it. But just think if Pastor Harris sold his house, and we sold his house for $400,000, and we put it on the market, right? I'm just using an example. Just say we did, okay? And we sold $400,000, right?
Right.
Well, not only does Gerald and Renee want the house, but everybody on this side wants the house.
Right.
So they're all putting in offers. Gerald and Renee put in, he want $40,000, we're gonna give him $40,000. Well, this sister right here said, I'm gonna give him $450,000. Then you say, it's like an auction.
Right.
And that's what is creating these bidding wars. So a lot of people don't really want to do the bidding wars, so they went to new builds. Because new builds, you typically go to the new build lot, new build neighborhood, pick out the house, pick out what you want, etc. So it's not as much. However, because of demand, even the new build communities are having challenges where you're getting on a wait list. And the wait list can take you some time. Okay? So once you go through that pre-approval, you shop for the homes. After you shop for the homes, then you put in your offer. Your agent's going to put the offer in. Your agent's going to give you education on what is a good offer. You can't go asking Mr. Seller to go fix his toilet, his tub, his basement. In this market, don't ask for nothing. I mean, you can't ask for really if you want to win the offer, right? There's some in the normal market, yes. Mr. Seller, I need you to fix the toilet. I need you to fix this. I need you to fix that, right?
As is.
A lot of people are selling as is. So some people don't want to sell because they're like, I don't have any money to put in my house. Don't worry about it. Clean it up, clean it out. You'll have to sell. Right? There's some things that you want to do. I mean, if the toilet is rickety, you want to make sure that it's stable. But sellers, you don't have to do a whole lot today like you used to, right? But if you want top dollar, yes, there are things. There's a strategy to it. If you want top dollar, if you want people fighting over your house, there is top dollar. Okay, that you can. There's things you can do to get top dollar. So after you put the offer in, then you wait to see if the offer is accepted, and then you go under contract. Typically, it takes 30 to 45 days to close a deal. If you got cash, did y'all know you can close a cash deal in 8 days? Pretty fast. Most of them don't like 20 days, 21 days, all right? But 30 to 45 days to close, and then you're out of that house, the seller's out of the house, and then the buyer buys the house. And that's pretty much the process of going through it, right? So it just takes time, it takes patience. We have buyers who, we put in offers, 10 offers, 12 offers. I mean, over and over and over again, you just can't get up, just got to give up. You have to just keep going at it in this market because the supply is low, right? The supply is low. And then trying to live in Nashville, you got to make sure your pre-approval is pretty high because it don't matter really what area you live in, it's going to cost you. I mean, average home in Nashville is $1,000. Yes, I live in Hendersonville. I've been living in Hendersonville 15 years. I moved to Hendersonville to get a bigger house for cheap. But now, it's about the same price. You know, so when somebody say, well, I'm approved for 250, that is very challenging. But that's good, I mean, come on. That is a great house to buy, right? But in Nashville, it can be very challenging. That's why people are moving to where? Clarksville. It was Murfreesboro, but now Murfreesboro has gotten expensive. So a lot of people are resulting to townhomes. And I tell them that there's nothing wrong with a townhome because that's a great investment to have. You can live in it a little while, then rent it out and buy something else. But at least you own property. Own some dirt. All of us, good old black people, own some dirt. Leave something. But the Bible says leave at least an inheritance for your children's children, right? And that's how you leave that legacy.
Okay, there's a school of thought, Yolanda, that advises you never make an attempt to own your home, liquidate the debt. Anyway, keep it, use the equity, reinvest the equity. Like I said, there are some people that push it. I'm not going to mention names here in Nashville that advise you to do that.
Yeah.
But of course, under my school of thought says, you get to a point where you can pay your home off, hey, go for it. Because at least you can say, hey, I got my home paid off, I don't have to worry about it, the property tax,
Yeah.
insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
So are you on the school of thought to buy? It's called buy and hold.
Oh, yeah, well, I have a problem with paying your loan off and say, hey, I got this taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
And then invest it in another piece of property that's not your primary residence.
How do you get the money to invest in another property?
Equity from your
Well,
loans.
the equity, if you got, well,
Yeah.
if you don't have that, then,
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
Yeah. Right, if you don't have the equity. So what he's talking about is, there's all kinds of schools of thought out there, because also, if you're gonna buy and hold, which is a smart thing to do. That's what, if y'all own homes, that's what y'all do. Y'all buying it and you hold it, right? You're buying it and you hold it. You wanna buy another property? Yeah, you can pull equity out of that house, and instead of buying handbags and new cars, put it in real estate. Put it in real estate. But some reason why some people don't do it is because being a landlord is not for everybody. Isn't that the truth? I'll give y'all one last thought before I know we gotta close up. One last thought. My grandmother had a house over on Wedgwood. I was young and I got the house from my parents and I held on to that house for a long, long time. Being a landlord was tough. It was very challenging. And had I known what I know now, it's on Wedgwood. Y'all hear me? Off Wedgwood. Y'all know what that is? By Belmont, right? So I made a good profit, but I sold it, right?
At that time.
At that time. And that was years ago. That was probably before the housing crashed back in 2008. But now I look back, I'm like, man, that house probably $1 million right now. So you gotta be able to figure it out. But you have those opportunities all the time. We had a couple properties and some land. So you just have to figure out what is your plan. Because being a landlord is not for everybody. I have one of my best friends. She has about 9, 10 homes. She's buying that whole block on Osage. The whole block. She owns just about the whole block. But she buys and holds. Buys them and holds them. And she wants to be able to have opportunities for people to come in that can afford those rents to come in. So buy and hold is smart, but don't buy and hold and do nothing with a house. If you know you got a cousin, friend, sister, brother, and that house is sitting empty, that is not smart. If you have land in Nashville, you got a lot, and you're doing nothing with it, you let money go out the door. Build something on it. Keep it, but build something on it. Do something with it. You just said, well, it ain't costing me nothing to have it, but what could you be doing for your children's children?
When you realize that a non-profit, all this land we got, with CEC, you can build affordable housing on the top of this thing,
Yeah,
have money coming in, you wouldn't even have to lift off.
yeah. And until churches and nonprofit organizations realize the power of dirt and come together and not be so separated, you know, it's gonna be challenging for us as black people.
Along that being said, did you just say you have a friend who owns property on Osage, but she's unable to build?
No, she buying them. She buying them all so that she can afford people to come in and look like us to live there. Yeah, no, she's buying them. So that's what's, you know, that's really the cost of real estate when it comes to that. Any other questions? I know y'all get ready to start and y'all ready to praise the Lord and I too. So just any other questions? I'm here if y'all have questions. I have business cards so you all can reach out to me if you have just general questions. Maybe you had never thought you could afford a home. You just never know. You never know where you are. Some people who first-time homeowners didn't even realize that they could have a home. Right? So, yes.
If you have a lot, how can you go about building your own homes on it?
Okay, if you have a lot, you want to,
And to make your own profit.
Right, exactly. So, first thing you want to do is don't sell it till you get your information about it. Because people are also calling about your lot, you know, that they want.
Right now.
So, make sure that you know what can be built on the lot. Make sure you know it's per for a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, you know, and that's going and understanding the zoning of that lot. Because sometimes these lots are empty for a reason. They flood or they got other issues. So really get the history of the lot, and you can do that through the city hall or the zoning codes to go get that information. Get that information first. And if you can build a house, then you can see me. I have resources of developers, people who are just builders who will come and build a lot for you.
If you want to put a business on it.
It has to be zoned for business.
Zoned for that.
Yes, yeah. I had a house in Burns, Tennessee that I sold, and this couple wanted to make it a wedding venue because it was 15 acres. Well, it wasn't zoned for that. And so you also want to make sure it's zoned for that, and codes will allow it, because it's just like people who have Airbnbs. You know, they crack down on Airbnb in some areas, and then you see them loosening up when COVID happened. They changed their mind, I guess. But you want to make sure it's zoned for that, because your neighbors might not want a big business. That's what's happening on this corner. You know, these businesses that are down here, it used to be just neighborhood.
Yolanda, can you tell us anything about the tiny homes on a real piece of property that they're listening to?
Yeah, yeah. So that could be another option. You mentioned the tiny homes. Have y'all seen those? Or heard about the tiny homes?
On the property where you live.
Yep, you can put a tiny home. So if you drive around East Nashville, some of the neighborhoods, especially where the tornado hit, don't get my streets all messed up, but in East Nashville, they have like almost mini apartments. They don't have as many tiny homes yet, but many apartments that are detached from their house, that are Airbnbs or just short-term rentals. You can make your own money just from another property, you know, that's not that big, doesn't take up space. It's like several of them that have that. And so now the tiny homes are coming out. They don't take up much space at all. That if you are zoned and can have an Airbnb, that's an option for you. That's a passive income for you to rent that out. Because it's really small and you don't have to worry about it. So you can check on that. Can I put a tiny home there? Okay, does it have to be a slab? Does it have to be built on a crawl space? So those are all the questions that you want to get answered. But just do something with your lot so it can pass from generation to generation.
What's the maximum square footage of the time?
Oh, they're small. 900 square feet. I don't know if that's max, but they're around that size.
They have a hotel. It's off the shelf, South District.
Yeah, they just built it.
It's a
Tiny home
It's a
community.
tiny home hotel. And it's one room, it's got a kitchenette and all the water, got shower and bathroom, and it's got a pull out there.
Yeah. Some people are minimalists. Y'all heard about that? It's minimal. You don't need all, some people live in RVs, it just depends. Everybody don't need a big, huge house in some sense. And that could be another opportunity to generate income for you and your family.
Yolanda, since you mentioned about black people and their families, could you say something about often black people's properties tied into probate court?
Woo! So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, it is. I'm gonna cut you off, Pastor Chris. Go ahead and finish your statement, because I'm.
But the point is, often black people's property is tied up where they can't do anything because a relative has died, left no will, and now the family is arguing
Over what to
over that
do.
property, and it gets tied up in probate court, and the black family doesn't get the benefit of what's been left them because they have not been properly prepared for the transition.
And if you're not careful, the state would take it. Or the investors, they track down probate situations like this. So get your house in order, right? That's very important. Get your house in order. Be the power of attorney over whatever you have or your family, or give it to your children. You know, if you don't want Jane Doe to have it, make sure she ain't on the will, or it's going to end up in Jane Doe's hand.
Or at least have a
Yes, have a will, have a power of attorney, because unfortunately, we lose due to lack of education. Y'all, we lose every day due to lack of education. We also lose every day due to fear. You know, mama them did this, grandmama them did that. No, y'all, it's 2021. It's 2021, and you got to make sure your house is in order. You got to make sure if you do have real estate or want to have real estate, that it is properly assigned to wherever you want it to go to, so it won't get hung up and you and your cousin them won't be arguing over it. Because a lot of these lots around here are hung up with families who can't decide on nothing. We promised grandmama and them we won't ever touch it. When you could be building a legacy for your children's children, I'm going to say that one more time. Okay? Unfortunately, then something will happen to all of us one day, you know, at some point. The Lord let us live, my dad said, to 120, so maybe all of us will live.
Before you leave,
Yes.
I'd like to add one caveat. If there are persons within this association who owns property with no knowledge of development, I've been building houses now for 25 years. Most of the brick houses on Litchie Street I built 20 years ago. I tried to convince the congregation that I serve, now's the time to.
Yep.
Because in 10, 15 years, it will be beyond you. But if you have land now, I can certainly help you with a bill, put some serious, substantial money in your pocket. And my sister, I'm sure, can get any house sold that we construct.
Yep.
No magic, just method. If you want to engage, I'd love to engage.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's very important that we do. But get educated, know your information. If you think, okay, it's not anything I'm looking at now, I'm just, you know, living life, trying to do what I can, you just never know. Get your education, make sure you know what's happening in the market, and get somebody knowledgeable that's active in this market, that knows how to navigate through this market. That's what's most important, okay? Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate you. Call me if you need anything. I have my cards back.